That night, Sylvie's dreams were full of all the wonderful things she and her grandmother could buy with $10. Sylvie spent the next day in the forest with the young man. He told her a lot about the birds they saw. Sylvie would have a much better time if the young man had left the gun at home. She could not understand why he killed the birds he seemed to like so much. She felt her heart tremble every time he saw an unsuspecting bird as it was singing in the trees. But Sylvie watched the young man with eyes full of inspirations. She had never seen anyone so handsome and charming. A strange excitement filled her heart, a new feeling the little girl did not recognize, loved. At last, evening came. They rode the cow home together. Long after the moon came out and the young man had fallen asleep, Sylvie was still awake. She had a plan that would get the $10 for her grandmother and make the young man happy. When it was almost time for the sun to rise, she quietly left her house and hurried to the forest. She finally reached a huge pine tree so tall it could be seen for many miles around. Her plan was to climb to the top of the pine tree. She could see the whole forest from there. She was sure she would be able to see where the white heron had hidden its nest. Sylvie's bare feet and tiny fingers grabbed the tree's rough trunk. Sharp dry branches crashed her like cat's claws. The pine tree sticky sap made her fingers still feel stiff and clumsy as she climbed higher and higher. The pine tree seemed to grow taller and higher as Sylvie climbed. The sky began to brighten in the east. Sylvie's face was like a pale star when at last she reached the tree's highest branch. The golden sun ray hit the rainforest. Two hawks flew together in slow-moving circle far below Sylvie. Sylvie felt as if she could go flying among the clouds too. To the west, she could see other farms and forests. Suddenly, Sylvie's dark red eyes caught a flash of white that grew larger and larger. A bird with broad white wings and long slender neck flew past Sylvie and landed on the pine branch below her. The white heron smoothed its feather and calls to its nest, sitting on their nest in the nearby tree. Then it lifted its wings and flew away. Sylvie gave a long sigh. She knew the wild bird's secret now. Slowly, she began her dangerous trip down the ancient pine tree. She did not dare to look down and tried to forget that her fingers hurt and her feet were bleeding. All she wanted to think about was what the stranger would say to her when she told him where to find the heron's nest. As Sylvie climbed slowly down the pine tree, the stranger was walking up, back at the farm. He was smiling because he was sure from the way the shy little girl had looked at him that she had seen the white heron. About an hour later, Sylvie appeared. Both her grandmother and the young man stood up as he came into the kitchen. The splendid moment to speak about her secret had come. But Sylvie was silent. Her grandmother was angry with her. Where had she been? The young man's kind eyes looked deeply into Sylvie's old dark grey ones. She could give Sylvie and her grandmother $10. He had promised to do this, and they needed the money. Besides, Sylvie wanted to make him happy. But Sylvie was silent. She remembered how the white heron came flying to the golden air and how they watched the sun rise together from the top of the world. Sylvie could not speak. She could not tell the white heron's secrets and give his life away. A young man went away, disappointed later that day. Sylvie was sad. She wanted to be his friend. He'd never returned. But many nights, Sylvie heard the sound of his whistle as she came home with her grandmother's cow. Whether birds better friends than the hunter might have been, who could know?